Hello, Rebel Scientists. As you know, or as I told you last week, we are going to begin talking about what we call organelles. So in your body, you have things that are called organs, like your heart, your liver, and your kidneys. In your tiny little individual cells, you have things called organelles. It translates to little organs, because they do the same kind of jobs that your organs may do in your body. So we're going to be drawing into our interactive notebook, probably do about 2 organelles a day. So just that we are all on the same page, and I mean that literally, I want to remind you that on page 6 and 7, on page 6 you should have the 7 life processes. On page 7 you should have the types of cells. On page 8, you should have the egg lab analysis, which is due tomorrow, Tuesday. And for now, I want you to keep page 9 blank. But the really important thing is that as we begin these drawing these cells, is you have to have 2 pages side by side. So this should be page 10, and this should be page 11. Okay, because we're going to be comparing what we draw here compared to what we draw here. So we want to make sure that is side by side. So I want to tell you now that we're going to be, as I said, drawing them side by side. And you're going to have to write some words kind of in the middle of here. So, you know, it may be a little harder. You might draw it on this side and the next one on this side. But we're going to be pointing, using arrows to point. But nonetheless, let's begin. The first organelle we're going to talk about is called the cell membrane. So when we did the egg lab and we got rid of the shell, what was left was the cell membrane. And you saw it was kind of rubbery and thick. But what that did is that, remember, the egg got big, the egg got small. And that's because the cell membrane was letting water come in and out of the cell. Okay, so the water was passing through that cell membrane. If I had put sugar in there, into the water, the sugar would not have gone into the cell because that's a bigger molecule than water is. So let's go ahead and start with the cell membrane. So on this side, on page 10, is going to be our animal cell. And on the other side is going to be our plant cell. Okay, and as I said, we are going to start with our cell membrane. So let me go ahead and draw one. So you'll see that in most text and stuff, the image of the cell of an animal cell, I should say, is usually drawn kind of rounded. And I've even seen on some of the tests that the district gives us that they draw it or they show a cell that looks kind of rounded, and they expect you to know that that is an animal cell. So here's going to be my cell membrane, okay, for my animal cell. And then on my plant cell, so plant cells, they usually show them being kind of rectangular. So I'm gonna follow that example because I've seen them test it like that. So animal cell, plant cell. On page 12, you're going to turn the page, and on page 12, we're going to be writing the definitions of what an animal cell, cell membrane is, and plant cell. So I want you to know they're the same thing, okay? They share the same structure. So let's go ahead and label our cell membrane. So I'm going to write like kind of half and half, cell membrane. And I did put it in our interactive notebook electronically, so it's much neater. Okay, so cell membrane. And we're going to point to this outer layer. The next organelle I'm going to draw in here is the cytoplasm. Cytoplasm. Oops. Oops. Plasm is like a liquid. Cyto means cell. So it's the cell liquid. This goes together. Okay. And so it's a liquid. That's kind of hard to draw, but this is my best interpretation. And again, you can draw it the same way. Okay. I'm just kind of doing some kind of squiggles to show that it's a liquid. Okay. So there's my cytoplasm. So when I point the cytoplasm, the arrow, I'm just going to point it to like this open space. Oops. Again, this will look much neater electronically for you. Okay. So our cell membrane. So let me talk a little bit about our cell membrane. And this will be in your notes. So the cell membrane is the outside, the most outside layer of the cell. Okay, it kind of holds in the cell. And again, think about that egg when we took off the shell. You could see that outside covering, and that's all a membrane is. It's the outside covering of the cell. But it serves a purpose. So the structure is that it's the outside covering of the cell. The function, what it does, is that it decides what can come in and out of the cell. It regulates what comes in and out. Not everything can just go into the cell. The cell, you know, whatever it is, comes to the cell membrane, kind of knocks and says, hey, we want to come inside. And the membrane has to decide, do I let that substance in or not? And some of the smallest molecules like water and oxygen and carbon dioxide can come in and out all they want all day. But the bigger things, they kind of need to have permission of what can come in and out. So again, cell membrane, outer covering, and its function, it regulates what comes in and out of the cell. The cytoplasm is, I said, its structure, what it looks like, it's like a jelly-like substance. And its function is to hold the organelle in place. So it says if you had, you know, I wish I'd had an example with me, something, and you shook it and you could hear everything rattling around. Well, this jelly-like substance, as you can see, we're going to add some more organelles. They keep them from moving around. Maybe tomorrow I'll find an example to show you. Okay, so our first two words are cell membrane and cytoplasm. You find it in animal cells and you find it in plant cells. Okay, so that's all we're covering today, and tomorrow we'll put these into our drawing, or on Monday, you'll put them into your drawings, and then we'll continue from there. Thank you, guys.